Hi, my name is Simon Bignell. I'm a lecturer in psychology at the University of Derby in the UK. I'm interested in virtual worlds. I work exclusively in Second Life. I'm interested in using them for educational benefit of my students. I'm a developmental psychologist, and I have a general interest in Second Life and virtual worlds for education.
And my name is Panote, Siriaraya, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Kent in the UK. And my research interest is in trying to use virtual worlds to support the healthy aging of older people.
Okay, I think our remit, just briefly, is to talk about new innovations in trends in virtual worlds. So I see the trends as essentially driven by the users on one level, and on another level driven by the service providers, like Linden Lab in the example of Second Life.
Yes.
So there's two levels. There's the people that make the virtual worlds, and there's the users themselves. So user-generated content is one level, and then the constraints and other provision provided by the game makers, essentially. And there's an economy in both.
Yes, I agree with you too. I think on the level of the users, most of the users will probably decide on what the next trends or what the next type of what virtual environments will come in. And as for the service providers, I think based on being a user, I think that the technology is getting more advanced, and I think it would be more easier to create much virtual environments with middleware. So I see more of a diversity in the type of virtual worlds which would better meet the needs of the users, I think.
Mm.
Yes.
So they're continually advancing.
Yes.
Virtual worlds are driven by the technology, pretty much. They're also driven by the needs of the user. So we've seen, for instance, in Second Life, the use of voice particularly was one sort of threshold which we passed, because before it was just text.
Yes.
And when voice came online, there was a lot of resistance to this sort of change in the modality of communicating, and there were pockets of people that resisted that.
Yes.
So that was, there was this trend towards a different modality of communication, which actually separated users to a certain extent. So one advance in the technology led to fractation, if you like, of the users.
Yes.
So I don't think progress on one level is necessarily of benefit to all the users. But the trends coming up, I think, are to do with the internet and this idea of turning it 3D.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be a virtual world, in my opinion. Although you might choose to call that, it can be sort of a flash-based, interactive type of thing.
Yes, I agree too. I think as more users become more involved with it, the virtual world might be more integrated in the web. I mean, there's been some technology development like Unity, which embeds a 3D application in the web, and I think that might prove really popular with users. I mean, like games, casual games, like in Facebook games, those have proven immensely popular with users, especially some of them which have attributes like virtual worlds. Yes, they have a very large user involvement. So I think, well, in the future we might see more sort of virtual worlds becoming either, or maybe more similar to that sort of forms.
I think one thing that's going to liberate this technology is this notion of avatar or not. So for me, having a single avatar for all virtual worlds on all platforms would be a breakthrough. But just the notion of having an avatar, why can't I go into a virtual world? So why can't I represent myself as wholly as possible? Isn't that the same as like just looking at a website? So why do I have to have a secondary avatar there?
I see your point.
So, this notion of taking the self and then creating something else, a representation of me. Why can't I go in there? So it's kind of a different way of thinking about it. And I think the reason that some virtual worlds are so popular is because of anonymity. But then, if you log into a website, some websites you can just chat away, and it's just, you can be anonymous or whatever, and just like forums and stuff like that. But so there's resistance. I think there's going to be resistance to the notion of an avatar, a separation of the self and its representation. Ease of accessibility. Because if I want to go to Wikipedia, I want the information there now. I want to get it.
Yeah, and you don't want to spend time walking trying to find a 2D board and stuff.
No, I don't have to. Why should I go to an avatar to buy a book or something? When I can just go to Amazon and go, click.
Yeah, well, there might be sort of like a need for a new model or something. Because currently they're like more than 2D data on a 3D virtual world. I don't think it's really efficient enough.
No, it's not yet. The technology isn't there, but I don't think it's not going to be there for a while.
Yes.
And every year you hear, like in 10 years' time, we're going to get to the immersive internet, and there's always 10 or 5 years ahead. Even there's always been 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. So these are the early days, real early days, and we'll always be in the early days, because unless it's as real as this, it's no good.
Yes.
But then it gets into philosophy, So this is all representation, and is the 3D web going to be representation? How can we step into it? Is it a dream within a dream? All of that stuff, which is outside of my remit. I guess new trends in virtual worlds is, once we stop calling them virtual worlds and just spaces, somewhere to go, they're just souped up web pages, I think, which offer us some unique affordances. But we need to stop calling them virtual worlds.
Yes, in the future it might get rare enough to be, they might not even be considered virtual anymore. Yeah.
And then the cultural divides will be between platforms. Already we're seeing your World of Warcraft or your Second Life.
Yeah, that's two distant cultures.
Yeah. And so you've got the fantasy role players, and then you've got
socials.
There's more social networking. So there's already cultural splits here, and geography won't mean anything because
they're all interconnected.
Yeah, you're plugged in.
Yeah. You can access them anywhere.
So I think what we'll see is an evolution in all of this stuff, where as we move into the future and the technology becomes more efficient, what we're seeing is cultural diversity. So it's almost like an evolution where you have people into IT, virtual worlds exist, but if we don't have a unification, which you don't have, you have in-group, out-group, and that's a natural phenomenon of being human, you're going to get a split. So the racial tensions based on culture and ethnicity are going to exist but between different platforms. And in the future we might get to a point where geographical boundaries aren't applicable because everyone's plugged in like the Matrix. But you're either World of Warcraft, it won't be called this of course, you're either the or
fantasy
B.
world
And this is also this is like the species dividing,
Yeah,
so
that's an interesting thought.
Well, we won't need our bodies anymore. We'll just be plugged into the system. So the division, this is like really going off. The division is in platform. So platform individuation, I think, is going to be a real problem. And of course, there'll be people that opt out. So maybe even a subculture of people existing who want to live, in their real physical form. And you could even move to a position where you saw wars between these virtual worlds, and big tensions, economic tensions. How do you manage exchange rates, and will there be smuggling between the two worlds?
Yes, it could be considered two different, distinct places. I mean.
Because we're no longer separated geographically.
Yeah, they'll have their own rules. They'll have their own norms.
But, I mean, it's human nature to amplify cultural or social differences in any two groups. And I think we're going to see an application of that. So this notion of a utopian virtual world that exists for the benefit of mankind is, in my opinion, incorrect. I think this is going to amplify differences, but only in terms of the platforms. So and that's when the machines will take over, of course. That is the machines taking over. Because a lot of this stuff's going to be kind of automated, and the bots are going to get so good. So if in 100 years from now, I might be in a relationship with another virtual person, and they're actually a computer, right? And our offspring might be a computer, but the human race has got to think about this, right?
Yes.
But that's futurism, and it's
Another thing I think is pretty interesting is how already the virtual is already invading the real, as in sort of augmented reality.
Yeah.
So people with iPhones have applications with sort of a small virtual world inside them, and they're connecting them with the real world. So I think that trend might be quite big in the future.
Yeah, and I can see that being promoted by the people that want to make money off the back of that technology.
Yes.
We'll see Steve Jobs, you know, in his next presentation, Apple Virtual World, and it's a little implant that you put in. You just insert it under the skin here.
Yeah.
The eye life or something.
Yeah, the new Apple.
Yeah, the must-have app, and of course they reduce the price so everyone can, take part in this. Yeah. But then, you're plugged in. Basically, we're going towards the Matrix, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're off topic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. We're done. Thanks.
Okay.